Welcome back to Dork Points, everybody. This is Ron, and it's another Premium Binge, and unfortunately, this is going to be my last Premium Binge for quite a while. I'm getting rid of Premium. It's just a little too expensive. I'm just going to go back to Extra. It makes sense for me, but here's the games I've been playing on Premium, starting with Secret Agent Clank. Now, I liked Size Matters, but like I said, it just is not quite as amazing as the PS2 games, and the same thing for Secret Agent Clank. A lot of these button prompty levels, and then this, stealthing. And the stealthing here, it's not like Metal Gear. You have to scan a bad guy, and then run away from them, and then put on your holodisguise, and get around them without being seen, so that your holodisguise holds up to other enemies, and then scan another enemy while you're changed out of your holodisguise without being seen, in order to change into a holodisguise of that enemy without him seeing you in your holodisguise of him, and then getting around the level and out of it. Hopefully. It's, yeah, just based on that description, you understand. But there is a third element, which is arena levels with Ratchet, which are pretty fun, and I like that they change everything up, but yeah, I got to a certain point and I said, I'm done. Resistance Retribution is the next game, and, you know, kind of both of these games I kind of hate played at a certain point. I love the Ratchet & Clank series. I love the Resistance trilogy. It's wonderful, but this is a third-person shooter, and every single level has these annoying aliens running at you, and your gun misses them, and it's just awful. Now, of course, they switch it up, like I was talking about in my last FPS video, or an early FPS video. The Resistance trilogy itself, wherever you can find it, is amazing. Please get it. Now, this is almost more like a Red Faction 2, where, now I know that's first person, but there's so many, also there's a big bug here that I ran into, but there's so many weird different levels and different styles of gaming you do within this game. It was that time. But yeah, the fact that every single level you have to fight off these stupid little crappy aliens, I just hate it with all my heart, and your gun seems to always miss. It's yeah, it sucks. Alright, Mr. Mosquito, the Yamada Summer. Now, you know, I gave up on Ratchet & Clank. I was able to beat Resistance Retribution, but this was one of those games where I just started playing it. It was me and Charlie, and we started playing it, and it was just like, no, I hate this, I'm done with this. The inverted controls, trying to figure out how to bite a person, the lack of tutorial, it's really old school. I'm sure some people love this game or remember it highly, but ugh. Alright, Pinball Heroes, another kind of interesting game. I love my pinball games. Here's the Uncharted Drake's Fortune game. So yeah, there's only two views, that half screen and then the full screen. So that's a shame. There's no kind of like angled view. But it plays well. It's pretty good. Compared to the two other games I've mentioned, or three other games I've mentioned, this one pulls off what it's supposed to do. Alright, and now Sly 2, Band of Thieves. Yes, this should be, without a doubt, the best game on this list for the PS2. Most of these, or all, I think almost all of these are PS2 games, but other than PSP, obviously. But yeah, you know, it's so weird coming back to this. I consider this one of like the 10 best games on PS2. But watch this. Nope, can't get it. Thank God for the rewind system. As I've mentioned before, all the PS2 games, all the old school games on PS Premium, you can enable a rewind system in the options. But, oh my God, like, I just wanted to come out with guns a-blazing and be like, you know, this is a game that everybody needs to play. It's so amazing. You know, but after playing this now, I really honestly have to say, I think this game really needs a remaster or a total rehaul. Yeah, or maybe even a reboot. But you know what I'm saying. It's so good. Like, everything at that time was going for it, but when you play it now, it just doesn't quite hold up. And in Sly 1, it was level by level. This one has an open world. You know, it's 2-3 years after Grand Theft Auto, so they got smart and they did that. So it was really mind-blowing at the time to play these kind of like miniature open world areas and do the missions within them. It was, you know, ahead of its time in that way, but like I said, a lot of the jumping and the climbing and stuff is fairly broken in many levels. And you know, again, you know, I beat the game back when I was like 14 or 15, but you know, that was the only game I had, so you know. All right, and now speaking of nostalgia, Street Fighter, the 30th anniversary collection. Yes, you got Street Fighter. You got Street Fighter 2. You've got 54 different versions of Street Fighter 2, and then Street Fighter 3, which I've never even heard of. Street Fighter Alpha. The first Street Fighter is pretty lame. This is it, as you're seeing here. Of course, Street Fighter 2 is amazing. Unfortunately, they kind of did it to death with all the different versions. Street Fighter Turbo. I can't even remember. Street Fighter Turbo Alpha, Street Turbo Ultimate. Yeah, it was a great game. It was really fun, but they really milked it to death. And I think that's why it's amazing to look. I think there's so many games on this, and like these Street Fighter Alpha games, at a certain point, they just started adding other characters because, you know, I presume they just weren't doing as well. They weren't catching on with the public, and the game becomes kind of unrecognizable because they're, you know, all the characters go away and you just have these new weird characters. But as far as the collection goes, it's there. It's cool that way. It's a good collection. All right, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Now, in my last Premium Binge, I played or talked about Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. It's weird because that was a true love letter to the movie. This feels like kind of an afterthought. It doesn't have any of the plot elements of the movie, but I would say this is much more fun to play than that. You know, this is PS2 era. You can whip your lightsaber at people. That's pretty cool. But most of the game is just this and then being in that craft, as you saw earlier, and shooting people. And that's like the whole game, really. All right, Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. Now, I've talked a lot of crap about Bulletstorm. It's stupid, it's idiotic, it's misogynistic, you know, all those qualities that Duke Nukem had, but also, I mean, oh my god, just look at this scene, walking down the building. And speaking of Duke Nukem, there he is, they're loving tribute, so they know, you know, they're in on the joke, but, oh my god, the minute you start playing this, it's just so much fun. It's so good, and it's just cotton candy in the mouth. And this is one of the few shooters I can think of, other than maybe Doom and the Wolfenstein, all the Dooms and Wolfensteins, and maybe Bioshocks, that I have played more than 2 times. Like, I have played this game 3 or 4 times that I know of, and yeah, it's. I guess I gotta put it up there, even though it's so stupid and silly, but it's really a beautiful, well-crafted game. It is super high quality if you get the chance, and it's also super cheap right now, so if you get the chance to just buy it for a couple bucks, do it. Alright, and now the final games of the night. Yes, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 have been remastered, and so on Premium they put out Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain, and the other one, Blood Omen 2. And yeah, wow, look at these classic PS1 cinematics here. Oh boy, wow. At first it's like a warm hug, just like seeing this. This area here, I was like, oh my god. This brought me back to being a young person, and it's mostly great, but then you get out in the world, like when you're fighting the skeletons and monsters in the dungeons, they kind of move on a grid, whereas the humans don't quite do that. So when you're swinging your sword and your sword is limited, it doesn't feel good, really, to fight. But the story is amazing, of course, obviously, and the world, for a game of that time, is really well built. But, the idea that, like, Zelda, had better swordplay. Look at this. The swordplay is just ugh. A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo did a better job at gameplay, swordplay, and all of that way before this. So, alright, moving on to Blood Omen 2, and now kind of the same thing here, it's a love letter, it's a nostalgia, it's warm fuzzy, blah 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 blah. It just doesn't hold up, unfortunately. I love that you can fade into the mist and you can stealth kill people, but yeah, it's just not all quite there. And what's weird is this game was made between Soul Reaver 1 and Soul Reaver 2. So why does it feel so janky and like hard to control, and the camera is fighting against you? I want to love it. I love that it moves the story forward in that universe. But for the most part, this feels, oh god, so cheap compared to Soul Reaver 1 and 2. And this is right in between them. The puzzles, look at this. Yeah, that's one of the puzzles in the game. Fighting's okay. And as always, drinking blood is just so satisfying. It's great. But yeah, maybe reboots, remakes of this would be good too, instead of playing the original all broken. Alright, there you go. That's all the games I have played recently on PS Premium. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you liked it and subscribed it. And thank you for watching. Dork Points. Good night.